Today, down goes boxing. Down goes Ariel Helwani. Down goes slightly the UFC and Dana White. And even though his pockets aren't hurting, down goes Turkey. Slightly. All of this and more on today's episode of Matter of Fact MMA. What's up? What's happening? Let's go. What's up, guys? We right back at it. We right back with it. It's your boy, Matt. And look here, man. We're coming a day or two after. Let's see, UFC Des Moines. We also had boxing in the middle of Times Square in New York City, as well as Canelo Alvarez fighting for Riyadh season in Saudi Arabia. So here's the thing, man, as I clear my throat. Okay, so what we've seen over the last however many years, ever since ever since Ariel Helwani broke the news about Brock Lesnar coming back to the UFC at UFC 200. Was it 200? Yeah, I think it was 200. Or was it 300? It was 200. Yeah. Ever since then, bro, we've been dealing with Ariel Helwani, who got kicked out of MMA. Not really, but ever since the UFC was just like, bro, we're done with Ariel Helwani. Based out of that situation. They claim he leaked info. Ariel claims he didn't. Who knows? Nevertheless, ever since then, Ariel's one of those people that generally, and I know I don't really know the real man. I'm just, this is just for a video. I'm just making, video accusations. Doesn't mean that that's real. But Ariel Helwani, to me, comes off like a guy that when he's kicked out of a group, he then goes to the next group and makes that group and anyone else watching the new group think that the old group is completely bad. Because he feels this need to constantly be accepted wherever he goes, right? This is just, outside looking in. So with that being said, Ariel Helwani's been going around forever talking about boxing is on point. Boxing is not dead. Boxing is ruling the roost. Boxing is back. Boxing is over UFC. Boxing is over mixed martial arts. And at the end of the day, dude, it's a generational thing. When you're talking about older fight fans, fight fans in their 50s and beyond, you know what I'm saying? They're generally going to lean toward boxing. They're in the later stages of their life. You know what I'm saying? Not saying they're about to kick the bucket or nothing, but they're going to lean more toward that because it's what they've always known. It's what they grew up on, right? Not saying because, UFC is not necessarily that old to say somebody grew up on it to a certain extent, unless they're with around 20 to 25. But boxing is going to have that cachet of the older audience who has money to spend to purchase the pay-per-views, to buy the tickets, and to check it out. UFC is a little bit different. UFC is something that there are quite a few younger fans that do embrace it. There's, as you see the gray in my beard, there's still older people that do embrace it as well. You know what I'm saying? But it's a different business model. It's just separate. So you got Ariel going around pumping everything up about boxing, and he's got Eddie Hearn on his show, and he's, glazing Eddie Hearn, and they're talking about boxing. But at the end of the day, one thing about boxing is when boxing is perfect, two fighters that are well known, that are stars, that have put in their time, built legions of fans, have the pedigree behind them, years in the amateurs, years, of course, professional, major pay-per-views, title wins. When you get two boxers like that to agree to meet in the middle of the ring, the right venue, right time period, fanfare, stardom, everything else, boxing is quite unbeatable. in a way. Like, the first Usyk Tyson Fury fight was amazing, right? You know, but the deal is sometimes who you might believe are the two perfect opponents, timing matters. And if you do it a little bit too late, like Mayweather and Pacquiao, it goes a little bit south. You know what I'm saying? You do it too early, like Mayweather and Canelo Alvarez, it's a little bit too early. So when boxing is just right, that product is quite amazing. Quite amazing. Just the spectacle of it. And the fact that it's in tune with every fight fan's soul. You know what I'm saying? As a child, you could hear in the distance, in the background, the boxing, the boxing fight going on. And you hear the commentators, and it's a nostalgic type feeling. But at the same time, it's rare that you actually get that from boxing, despite what Eddie Hearn and Ariel Helwani want you to believe. Because you had Devin Haney fighting this weekend, Canelo Alvarez fighting this weekend, Ryan Garcia fighting this weekend. Devin Haney ain't going to talk much. He ain't going to do a whole lot. He's going to talk trash to Ryan Garcia, but let's be honest. If you follow boxing at all, Devin Haney's father is the fighter you really want to see in the ring. Devin Haney don't got it. His father does, but his father is the trainer and the talker. You know what I'm saying? Or one of the trainers. Ryan Garcia is the pretty dude that made it online, made the legions of fans online, was out there beating a lot of fighters that weren't as good as him, doing his thing, acting crazy, acting wild, building these legions of fans. But at the end of the day, he was never going to have the chops, right? He was never going to have the chops to go in there against anybody that you feel like is beneath him and he's going to dominate. Ryan Garcia is too much of a wild card when it comes to fighting. He's just mastered the media aspect of it. And Canelo Alvarez is one of the greatest boxers of all time. I'm not saying the greatest, but one of. And if Canelo at this stage in his career doesn't have the right dance partner, Canelo Alvarez could care less. He's going to go out there and do just enough to win and go home and collect his millions and millions of dollars for one appearance. That's just where he's at. With the right opponent, he'll get up and he'll go in there with that true Mexican fighting spirit, and he'll get somebody out of there. You know what I'm saying? He'll get a mofo out of there. But without that, he's not going to do that, right? That's where boxing is at. So maybe it was last week, week before, I don't know, my weeks might be off. It was a week ago, 2 weeks ago. Tremendous fight. Tremendous fight. Tremendous fight. Ben and Hugh Banks. Tremendous fight. If you want to see an amazing fight, go watch the fights between the fathers. Go watch Ben as well as Chris Eubanks Sr. You know, Chris Eubanks Sr., shout out to that man. Amazing talent from the UK. Amazing fighter. And one of the first to really put on a show, to adopt a character in fighting sports and put it out there and make a career out of it. But when boxing doesn't have that, it just don't have that. So when I talk about down goes boxing, this was a down weekend for boxing. Despite what Eddie Hearn, Ariel Helwani, and everyone's going to tell you, because Ariel's got a vendetta against Dana White in the UFC. At the end of the day, this wasn't a good showing by boxing this weekend. The Ryan Garcia fight, he loses to Rolly. He lost. You know what I'm saying? And they already had announced the rematch between him and Devin Haney. Devin Haney had a terrible showing because Devin Haney is definitely tentative and a little bit gun shy after Ryan Garcia put them paws on him in the first fight. Devin Haney's in there kind of trashy, you know what I'm saying? Heck of a fighter, but he's trashy, bro. You're a little bit garbage, a little bit trashy, you know what I'm saying? Like, bro, get that fire back, you know what I'm saying? If he could fight the way his father talks, he'd be unstoppable. You know what I'm saying? Ryan Garcia, it is what it is, bro. Rolly's now in the picture. It is what it is, bro. I don't know how y'all gonna sell that fight between Garcia and Haney, but it is what it is. Teofimo Lopez fought a guy that didn't really feel like fighting him, and Teo didn't get him out of there. He also fought this weekend on a card in the middle of Times Square, which sounded like a good idea, was a pretty good spectacle. DAZN gave you a deal on it. If you got it with the Canelo Alvarez fight, you got it for $89 for both of them together. All right. But at the same time, when you saw it, there wasn't enough rows of people there, and it just didn't hit like how you thought it was going to hit, because they didn't have the ruffians of New York coming in there, the scallywags, you know what I'm talking about? So, it is what it is. The Canelo Alvarez fight, the guy he's fighting, School, bro, he wasn't there. This guy evaded and moved the entire fight and forgot the offensive part of boxing. And he's hugging his son, and he's acting like he won. He's all celebrating. And it's like, bro, yeah, you went the distance with Canelo Alvarez, but you never made anybody truly believe you were about to beat the man, even though, a couple of those judges gave him a few more rounds than I would have gave him. But Canelo is at the point in his career where it's like, if you're not going to come out here and challenge me and make me fight you, I'm not going to fight you. So Turkey takes an L. And Turkey don't take L's because Turkey, if you want to know where the bag is, you look at Turkey. You know what I'm saying? But at the same time, bro, he put all this money, put everything behind this card in New York and this card Riyadh season over in Saudi Arabia with Canelo Alvarez, and it didn't really work. Now, he ain't hurting pocket-wise. He'll be right back. He's got another card. It is what it is. He announced Crawford and Alvarez, but still, bro, slight bit of a loss. So let's talk about the UFC real fast. UFC, this Des Moines card wasn't really that good. It had a few moments, a few finishes, but it wasn't that good. The main event was only shocking in the sense that Corey Sandhagen finished by virtue of a knee injury, Davison Figueiredo. When everyone knew he was going to win the fight, everyone knew Corey Sandhagen was going to win the fight. We just thought it was going to go to a 5-round decision. So, okay, he finishes him due to the knee popping, but still, he was dominating him. Figueiredo thought he was John Danaher and was just going to roll for the leg a million times, you know what I'm saying? And if Joe Rogan would have been on the commentary, it would have been perfect, because he would have been like, look at this. Look at this. Get out of there. He's got his leg. And it's like, bro, Joe, shut up. Nobody's getting ready to pull off anything at this moment. So the main event didn't really do too much. Shout out to Corey Sandhagen, goes out there and done his thing. He looked tremendous. He looked dialed in, but that was that. Shout out to Renner de Ritter. You know what I'm saying? Depending on who you're around, some people pronounce it Henner, some people pronounce it Renner. Whatever it is, some people say Reiner. Whatever it is, the man got the goods. And thank you for getting Dusty Bo Nichols up out of there. Go back to the drawing board, Bo Nichols. The commentators was dancing around. He was caught to the body early on. Way earlier than that devastating knee. He was caught to the body. He was up out of there. Get him up out of there, bro. Get him up out of there. He ain't really ready yet. You know what I'm saying? Get him up out of there. Boring card. It is what it is. You know what I'm saying? But at the same time, when you want to combat the people that talk about boxing and boxing being not back, but in the driver's seat and all of this, and I don't care about your numbers of pay-per-view and everything, your numbers on pay-per-view for boxing will never equal the amount of popularity, publicity, and everything that goes along with mixed martial arts. We're not talking about different fighters dropping by the Today Show, trying to pump the next boxing bout, and we're measuring that as it's the number one sport. We're talking about social media. We're talking about TikTok. We're talking about IG. We're talking about YouTube. We're talking about dudes like me making random YouTube videos based out of MMA. You know what I'm saying? We're talking about all of that. We're talking about what kids are going to be talking about in school. We're talking about everything, as well as the numbers it might do on ESPN, on Hulu, or anything that's attached to the ESPN Plus app. How about Disney Plus? It's also attached to that in a bundle. We're talking about everything. And at the end of the day, for the weakest UFC card, a lot of the time you're still going to get a few finishes by even a few unknowns that are going to be a lot more intriguing than you watching like 9 rounds of two unknown boxers and one of them tags the other one hard and drops him for an extra 2 seconds of the 10 count that he's going to beat. So when I say it's a slight loss for Dana White and a slight loss for the UFC, it's just slight, my dude. They right back with it. Next pay-per-view on the way. Next card on the way. And granted, you're going to have a lot of, effed up cards along the way with the UFC. But when you get an effed up boxing card, you don't get no finishes. You don't get no action. You know what I'm saying? You get a few uppercuts landed here and there, and the crowd's like, oh. The boxing crowd gets all into, oh, we saw something. Bro, you get that from 2 cans in the UFC, you know what I'm saying? It's just that us UFC fans are spoiled, and we long for the Conor era, the early Izzy era, the Anderson Silva era, the GSP era, the early John Jones era, you know what I'm saying? We long for that. Francis Ngannou era, you know what I'm saying? We don't get all of that right now. Khabib Nurmagomedov era, Usman was really providing us with something. Some of his fights were boring, but at least you could count on Usman to come through with that pedigree. You know what I'm saying? Bro, what are we talking about, Ariel Wani? What are we talking about? Nevertheless, it wasn't that good of a UFC card, to be honest with you. I ain't even got no words for it. It is what it is. Shout out to Corey Sandhagen, he gets the win. Shout out to Rolly, he got the win in boxing. Canelo Alvarez wins his fight, as well as Devin Haney and Teofimo Lopez. But at the same time, Turkey ain't losing money-wise, but Turkey took a little bit of a slight loss this weekend. And Dana White, when he takes a slight loss, he's taking a big win because he ain't even paying these guys what, MMA pundits feel like they're worth. So, who's really winning? Shout out to everybody, man. We'll see what comes next. Let me know your thoughts on the boxing fights if you watch those this weekend. Let me know your thoughts on that trash Des Moines card. And once again, I do want to thank you guys for watching another episode of Matter of Fact MMA. And I'll check you next time. Peace.